Crawford looked unstoppable and was about to be offered a role that would propel him onto the global stage and come to define his career.
Went round and heard Michael sing, and there was no doubt in my mind that he was our Phantom from that moment.
Spring 1984, and composer Andrew Lloyd Webber, responsible for the musical theatre mega hits Starlight Express, Cats and Evita, was searching for a leading man for his new production, The Phantom of the Opera, and the news had reached Michael Crawford.
He knew in his heart exactly what he was going to do with that character, how it would look, how he would move, and he just knew. And actors get that feeling. I was born to play this. I have to have this part. I must have this. I'll die if I don't get this part.
Lloyd Webber encouraged Michael to audition for Phantom. But after months of hearing nothing, he assumed the part had gone to Steve Harley, who'd had a hit with Phantom's title song. But a chance encounter the following year would have far-reaching consequences.
Sarah Brightman, who I was married to at the time, she had a singing teacher called Ian Adams. She really relied on. And when we were thinking of who we could possibly have as a Phantom or cast as a Phantom in London at a pretty early stage with the whole thing, Ian Adams said, you know, Andrew should really come round and hear Michael, because Michael is working on his sort of more operatic voice. And I remember when Sarah said that, I pricked my ears up and thought, well, I knew he could sing. I mean, everybody knew he could sing. I remember him in Barnum, but I mean, again, it wasn't the sort of voice that I was thinking of. Went round and heard Michael sing, and there was no doubt in my mind that he was our Phantom from that moment.
When it was announced that Michael Crawford had been awarded the West End's most coveted role, there was consternation amongst the critics.
You little demon! Is this what you wanted to see?
The problem for Michael, and I think for the media, in accepting the role of the Phantom, was it's very, very hard to shake off Frank Spencer. And to imagine Barnum wasn't that big a stretch, and it was a very different character. But the Phantom was something that was totally against type.
Fear can turn to love. You'll learn to see, to find the man behind the man.
But the man who'd created the musical had complete confidence in his choice of Phantom.
For the moment that he said that he could do the Phantom, I didn't even think twice. I mean, any doubts, that one would have, would disappear in rehearsal, and I knew that.
After 2 years of planning, on the 27th of September 1986, preview performances of The Phantom of the Opera started at Her Majesty's Theatre in London.
I think when people came to the first preview of Phantom, they were sort of expecting him to emerge from the top of the theatre and say boo, and they thought it was going to be a bit of a romp. And of course, my Phantom is anything but that.
I went to the theatre to see opening night, and when I heard they'd cast Michael Crawford, I sort of went, oh, really? I'm not sure about that. But within a second, I was his, and it just captured me completely. I should never have doubted him, never ever have doubted him.
The Phantom doesn't appear for about 15 minutes. And maybe a little longer. And of course, Michael's entrance, the way he comes and he does an innocent boy, and all of that, and insolent boy. That voice and that authority, shocked the audience to the core. And of course, by the time he'd gone through Music of the Night, the audience were aware they were seeing something very, very different to what they had imagined. And that word went round London, even in those pre-social media days, very, very quickly.
Trust me, savor each sensation. Let the
When my daughters came to see it first, was in London at one of the previews, and it's a very emotional show, But they came round, and my youngest daughter was absolutely sobbing. And she said, I didn't know you could do that, Daddy.
Help me make the
And it was Crawford's startling and unexpected performance that stunned audiences.
No one could quite believe what they were seeing. It's hard to imagine anyone portraying that role better.
Michael Crawford very rarely plays lovers. He often plays these figures who stand slightly outside of the story. He's only on stage in Phantom of the Opera for about 40 minutes, but he dominates the thing.
It's the life he breathed into every scintilla, every inch, every second of that character. It must have been actually physically very exhausting.
I just did not recognize Michael, one iota. The stature of the man, the presence, the charisma, everything, you know, that just passion of the man was not the actor that I worked with. Some others do have him.
In a way, Phantom was the perfect role for Michael. He's somebody who is very shy. He's a person who enjoys being out of the limelight. He doesn't relish being centre stage when he's not actually on stage. So to play a character who lives in the shadows, who's hidden behind a mask, who is haunted in some way, was very, very apt for our perception of Crawford. He's somebody who doesn't relish taking the spotlight, but when he does take the spotlight, boy, does he command it.
I see in the West End people flock around stage doors, but I don't think you've seen people flock around stage doors the way they did around Michael Crawford when he was in Phantom. I mean, that was something. There were people around the block waiting to see him.
But every night before stepping on stage, Michael underwent a painstaking procedure.
He would get in very early because he liked to kind of get his mind into where he thought it needed to be to give the performance. But as they got more adroit, I mean, probably it took 3 hours probably to start with.
So that was 3 hours per performance just in makeup. So that's months and months of his life that were taken up with makeup.
He, of all of the people who played the Phantom, really liked that time when he was put into the makeup. And just to get, I think, him, you know, just so he could absorb himself in what he was about to do. And no doubt think about his performance.
Phantom became a phenomenon, with record-breaking runs in London, New York and LA, where 20 years after Hello, Dolly, Michael Crawford was reacquainted with an adoring American audience.
And the winner is Michael Crawford, the Phantom of the Opera.
Michael's sheer delight at winning a Tony is evident as he collected the award at the 1988 ceremony.
There have been so many wonderful things that have happened to me. I know by the law of averages, I must be due to be knocked down by a truck any day now.
He won an Olivier and a Tony for it. I believe it earned $6 billion around the world, that show, and that's largely because of Michael's performance.
And having originated the role of Phantom, Michael was able to capitalise on the musical's global popularity.
Michael's agent managed to get him a percentage of every production of Phantom around the world for a certain number of years. And that was a big deal for Michael. Very, very, very smart deal.
Phantom also worked its magic on Michael's private life when he fell in love with Natasha McCalla, a dancer in the LA production. The couple remained together to this day. But having found personal happiness at last, and at the very peak of his career, catastrophe lay ahead.
Let your soul take you where you long to be.
With triumphant runs in the West End, Broadway and LA, the Phantom of the Opera had elevated Michael Crawford to superstar status, his devoted admirers ensuring sell-out theatres wherever he performed.
He has hordes of followers at the stage door. Many of the women worked like round the clock so they could spend their holidays, 2 weeks, 3 weeks, a month. They can spend all their holidays following Michael.
I thought it was outstanding. I was moved to tears at times.
I think the whole thing was stupendous. It was the most fantastic thing I've ever seen.
But years of adulation and accolades have had little effect on the performer.
He doesn't ever appear or seem to me to be very starry in any way. I always see that from other people's reaction to him. He's not, aware of that at all.
There's very little sense of self-esteem in Michael. Michael, again, doesn't wear a badge of I am Michael Crawford, I am the Phantom, I am Billy, I am Frank Spencer.
For most parts, Michael does not act like a big star. But he can be a diva, let me tell you. Yeah. If he wants something, he wants something, and he can demand it. And, I'm not going to go any further unless I get what I want. And usually what he wants is right.